Hi, welcome to the Drama Free Living Podcast. Lisa, 6.
Okay.
6. Okay, it's 20% of employees really waste about 6 hours a week. You know why? Inability to collaborate.
Wow.
Isn't that fascinating? Right? It was, I just read that new Deloitte study, or it was actually McKinsey, just get it right. It was a McKinsey study. And then they even said that 64% of employees waste at least 3 hours a week because people aren't able to collaborate. Right? They're kind of siloed. And I thought, well, what a loss.
Or they don't know how to collaborate.
Yeah.
And so that's just, so if you have, okay, let's do the math here. If you have 64% of your employees, so that they say
this is expensive.
This is like, so say maybe you only have 10 employees.
Yeah.
Much less 1,000 employees.
I was just say 10. So that's let's just say 6 out of 10.
So six people, 3 hours a week.
18 hours.
18 hours times, I don't know,
$30, $40 an hour.
$40 an hour. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good expensive.
Times 52 minus a couple weeks for vacation.
Yeah.
If you only have 10 employees, just because you not that you don't know how to collaborate, but there's a speed bump in your collaboration.
Yeah. And I think that this is actually a particular workshop that we wanted to give you sort of a behind the scenes look at the workshop. But it is one of maybe the most popular workshops that we do, this whole idea around collaboration. We're really calling it the power of we. Like, how do we increase collaboration so that things move faster? And it really, at the end of the day, Lisa, it makes leadership easy.
Yeah.
If you do leadership right, it doesn't have to be hard. A lot of times people say, well, managing people is hard. Well, yeah, if you do it wrong, it's absolutely hard. Mm-hmm. I get that, right? If you're micromanaging, right, you don't have a high level of trust, you don't have clear guidelines, you don't not focused on absolutely, it's totally hard, right? But really this whole idea of collaboration, it makes leadership easy. So we wanted to give you a sneak peek behind the scenes on what we do in a workshop and a couple of the different ideas. One thing that we really, go ahead.
Oh, well, no, I was just going to say, I mean, collaboration makes leadership easy, but also collaboration makes being on a team easy.
It really does. Yeah.
It shortens the runway of onboarding.
Yeah.
And also it shortens the project time between ideation to completion because you've got clear communication and clear collaboration. Not only do you have benchmarks on your projects from ideation to completion, but you have good communication. Yeah. And then you have people along the way that are communicating back and forth. I know we've one of our kids works for a company, and they have some projects that they did several years back.
Yeah.
And then he was having to work on this project and basically revamp it and completely readjust it. And the timeline that they gave him was about 3 months too short, because when he got in there, he realized it was a complete mess, but they didn't know, they didn't understand. And so he had to figure out a way to communicate them. This is not a reflection of my competency. This is a reflection of what the work behind this is actually going to look like. And so being able to communicate and collaborate through the process to be able to, because they really needed this project to be completed within, I think it was 6 weeks' time, because the clients needed it. But really, when he got in there, he said, this is not going to be available for our clients in 6 weeks. And so being able to collaborate to increase the efficiency was a huge thing.
Well, listen, I think that's a key thing is that, with collaboration, it requires like really intentional communication. Mm-hmm. Now, here's what's interesting. When we come in to work with clients, almost always, I want to say 100%, but it's probably not true 100%, but I want to say it, is people just say, well, we don't communicate well. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, the challenge with that statement right there is that when you give a broad brush stroke to something like that, we don't know what that means. And so almost like what we've seen is that people's sort of communication is the foundation, but really defining what does that mean? And I always ask people, because they tell me, well, we don't communicate well. And I ask them, well, what does that mean? Does that mean you don't know the guidelines? Does that mean you don't know the deadlines? Does that mean you don't know the success criteria for the project? Do you not know the meaning or the context of why we're doing it?
Do you not like the person you're supposed to be communicating with?
Yeah. And
does the person you're supposed to be communicating with not respect you and your expertise?
Right. And so here's our encouragement, because as you collaborate, you're probably going to hear this as a leader. We don't communicate well. Always get better definition, right? Because it's very hard to apply a specific answer to a very general problem.
Well, and we can fix any problem as long as we truly name it for what it is and recognize what the issue is. You can totally find an answer for it.
Well, and isn't it true, Lisa, a lot of times, sometimes it's harder just to name the problem, right? We kind of broad brush it, but it's like, well, really, this is the problem. And it's like, oh, that's the problem. Because your brain works best on specifics. Your brain does not work well in generalities. And when you give your brain specifics, it almost kicks it into hyper gear. It's like, okay, that's the specific thing. But when we broad brush these ideas, it's your brain almost like doesn't know what to do.
Right. Well, and oftentimes what we think is the symptom, here's the symptom. So we think that's the problem. And then the symptom is not really the problem. The root is really the problem. So if you're having trouble with your top end revenue, you've got to go back and you think, well, the problem is,
we don't have good marketing.
The problem is we don't have money coming in the door.
Okay, right.
Okay, so that's the symptom. And then you're like, oh, well, we don't have good marketing. Well, as you begin to peel back the onion, you get, it's typically the symptom is not the problem.
Right. Well, so
it's getting back to the very root of what's actually going. Well, we actually have great marketing, but
we don't have good messaging.
But the spam filters are blocking the messaging that we have. Our messaging's great. Our marketing is great, but we're not actually able to get it to our audience because of spam filters or something like that. Yeah. So it's not typically the symptom. You have to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, and I think that's what our clients appreciate when we come in to do this workshop is we kind of peel the onion.
Yeah.
Right? They kind of give us the onion. And then as we work through the workshop, we start to peel that onion to get really...
And to find out it's rotten to the core.
Well, what's fascinating is that maybe it'll take us, a couple hours to peel the onion, right? Because people are working through it and they're really trying to get clarity. But it's almost this idea of like when they get clarity on what it really is, solutions happen so fast. But a lot of times it's working through that.
Yeah.
And so our encouragement is that I know you're going to probably say, we don't communicate well, right? But get to the core. Right? Get to the core of what that really is. And you're going to see your collaborationists go through the roof. But we want to give you some ideas in the podcast and kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. Now, listen, if you've been listening to podcasts for a while, we would love for you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to it on your favorite podcast app, hit like, whatever it is that you do, because we want to get this message out to more people. And we want you to be aware of like, hey, when we're producing new episodes, hey, they're going to come right to you and you're going to like notice them. But a couple different ideas, we pull back the curtain. One thing that we really work through as we kind of work through collaboration is really knowing your superpower and knowing your kryptonite.
This is huge for collaboration. It's knowing your superpower, knowing your kryptonite, and then also communicating it to your team. It's okay to have a superpower and it's okay to have a kryptonite. And when we as a team know what each other's superpower and kryptonite is, we work so much better together.
Yeah, because people can help you with your kryptonite.
Yeah.
And honestly, people are a little bit more compassionate, right? They understand, or they don't make judgments. Because a lot of times, here's what happens. I know I do this. I make judgments against people at times based on my own giftedness, right? And here's how we do it. We say things like, hey, it's easy, just go blah, 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 right? Oh, it's not hard, just blank, blank, blank. And I'm sure people want to say, well, yeah, easy for you to say.
Right.
Right. But there are things that I find hard. These are things that I find hard that you find very easy, right? Digging into details in that research, you find that you do it amazingly. And at times it's a little clunky for me.
Which doesn't give you the excuse of not doing it.
Exactly.
It's just recognizing, hey, that's going to be a little bit more difficult for me.
Right. And almost like allowing myself some space to go, hey, I'm going to have to use some energy, right? Maybe a little bit more energy, to research, but allowing myself space to do that and continuing to have these conversations. And then here's what's really cool, Lisa, is as we're collaborating is that my kryptonite is somebody else's superpower.
Right. Okay. So give the example of like your superpower and your kryptonite and how that plays into a team setting.
Yeah. So my superpower is being able to like act on the fly and under pressure, I can, create things, right? But my kryptonite is without a deadline, I procrastinate. Without a deadline, I don't get things done on time, right? I don't check boxes. I don't do what? I don't take things all the way to completion. I'll start them, but I don't take them to completion. But having a team member, I can start it and then turn it over to other team members that love completion. They love to check the box, and they get such a fulfillment out of checking the boxes. And I can value them, say, hey, this was really helpful to me, right? And also like using their superpower.
Right.
Because that's my kryptonite.
And the team knows that that's your superpower and your kryptonite. So when we need something acted on quickly, we go to Dennis.
Yeah.
And we also, when we know that there is a deadline for a client, we know that we're going to have to be on his heels, and we're going to have to kind of just hold his feet to the fire and make sure that this gets done, because he's the only person that can do this. Now, if someone else can do it, we'll delegate it out to somebody else. Now, for me, my superpower is I have a high level of curiosity. I have a high level of discernment in that, like if you're talking working genius, I'm wonder and discernment. So I ask a lot of questions, and then I can take something and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. That's not right. Let's fix that. But also along the same lines is if you're looking at, say, like a disc, I'm a CS. Well, a CS is a very detail-oriented person, and also just a very warm, friendly person. But that doesn't mean, if you go back to working genius, tenacity is the lowest thing on my list. And so while I'm very precise and very, very detailed, my kryptonite is don't ask me to check the boxes. Don't ask me to actually, like, just because I'm detail oriented doesn't mean I'm going to be your get her done girl, because it will just lay on my desk forever, and it will be pulling teeth for me. And so the team knows that they can bring me something that's partially done. Dennis will create something. It'll come to my desk, and I'll look at it and I'll fix it, and I'll be like, yeah, this is completely the wrong track. Yeah. Let's move it over. And then I'll move it on, because if it stays with me, it's not going to happen, because my kryptonite just is going to hold me back, and it's going to hold the entire team back.
Yeah, that's the key thing. Like, so when you think about me, like part of my superpowers is ideation and galvanizing, right? Mm-hmm. So I have an idea and I can get it out there, but one of my kryptonites is really that discernment piece.
Yeah.
Really being able to, right? And so this is where, if I have it, I cannot galvanize until I walk it through a discernment piece, and having the patience, because I'm a high galvanizer and I'm a high, long, quick start, I tend to want to just like as fast as possible, and really understanding, hey, that is it's a superpower, but I've got to take it through this process.
So this is really interesting, is your superpower is also your kryptonite.
Yeah.
Because you are high invention, like you create like nobody's business. And then your other superpower is your galvanizer. So you'll create, and then you'll run with it, and you'll just go with it. And if it's not lassoed in, it will cause everything you do to fizzle and die. So for instance, we had a particular project 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
it's Leadership 101.
Yeah. Leadership 101.
And so if you haven't been through Leadership 101, we'll put a link for it. It is a fantastic new managers, supervisors training that we do by Zoom, and you'll love it, but we'll put a link.
Well, and what it does is it really shortens the time it takes when you're either you're onboarding a completely new leader manager, or you have just a really great employee that you've promoted to supervisor role. They're in that position because, wow, they are amazing at what they do, but a lot of times you don't have the skill set to lead people. Just because you're good at what you do doesn't mean you can lead other people in it. And so it really shortens that time. It shortens that cost of onboarding, and we kind of do the work for you. We're like, here, you've got this skill set, and this is how you lead people in it. And it's super easy. You just put people in, and we walk them through it for you. Yeah. But so we were creating
this in the 2 years ago. We started this process.
Well, it was a year and a half ago. So I was out of the country for a couple weeks,
and who knows what happens when you're out of the country?
And
things happen.
And so Dennis and another team member and 3 team members got together, and they created Leadership 101.
Now, we had no discernment on this in this particular group of us. A really fun group.
knew that this was a need, knew that we have so many organizations that really truly needed this help with these newly promoted managers and supervisors, right?
Yeah.
Created the whole framework of it. And then I come back from being out of town and they're like, yeah, we've got Leadership 101.
We're going to launch it this date.
And it wasn't even called Leadership 101. It was like some janky title that I don't know what it was. And it was half.
Hey, we're not good at titles.
It was half baked.
Good idea, not good at title.
And so, this was like the end of October, and they were like, oh, okay, we're going to launch it in
December.
And so then
right before Christmas. What a great idea.
And I got caught wind of it when I came back, and I was like, okay, does this other team member know the other team member that was kind of stepping in and covering bases? Does this other team member know that you're doing? No, she doesn't know a thing. No one else on the team knew anything about this, right? And so then I'm as my discernment pops in, I'm like, well, first of all, you can't launch it in December. That's Thanksgiving and that's Christmas. Secondly, we can't have the deliverables ready. We can't have the technology ready. We can't market it well. You can't create it, market it, and have it sold in like 6 weeks. This is not happening. And so we basically pulled the plug on it. And then it was a year later.
As we're working through the ideas and working through the
creating it, spending the time to do it well and actually serve our clients.
Yeah.
Now we've got this amazing piece. But that is a perfect example of you, Dennis.
Yeah.
It's both your superpower is invention and galvanizing.
Yeah.
And it's also your kryptonite. And so sometimes your superpower, not focused, can also become your kryptonite.
Yeah, because Lisa, I think every weakness or constraint tends to be a strength overextended.
And when you work alone without having other people around you that round you out, you can self-destruct without even knowing it, because it's who you are. It's what makes you great. It's why you're here on this earth.
Yeah.
And but you need other people around you. You need that collaboration to really be successful in it.
Yeah, and you might be asking, what are you talking about, working genius? Like we kind of threw around a bunch of acronyms, and
I kind of geek out on some of this stuff.
It's really cool. So listen, this is part of the collaboration workshop that we do. So if we can serve you in any way, we're just going to put a link to some of these resources. But we'd love to come in and do a Working Genius workshop and talk about collaboration and how you can work together to see projects happen faster, quicker, easier. So know your superpower, know your kryptonite, and also learn to stay in the tension.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is super important, which means, there's a tension between, this is the idea and what's the practical application to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And sometimes there's this idea that every challenge is a problem that you have to solve.
Right.
And you don't. Right. There's a tension a lot of times between, hey, this needs to get done, but right now we're on 5 other priorities. Right. There's a particular tension in our organization where we talked about it and we decided to step back and go, you know what? It's not going to be solved today. We can Band-Aid this for the next 6 months because there's 4 other projects that really need to happen before we even tackle this, and being okay with that, right? That you don't have to fix everything. And then really realizing that tension is an opportunity, right? Sort of instead of viewing it as a negative, at least this is what I've learned about tension. Nobody died because there was tension.
Well, I don't know about nobody.
Don't just love my absolutes, but a lot of times it's just kind of reframing it is that, hey, there's okay to have tension.
Yeah.
Right. And not every problem has to be solved quick. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't give you a reason to procrastinate, right? It doesn't give you, but you can't solve everything.
And with this tension, things like it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah.
It's okay to trust other people with your baby, with aspects of it. That's what's required in collaboration. Collaboration is working together with possibly a group of virtual strangers, knowing that you are creating something for the common good. You have a common goal, and just knowing that that's okay. And that's the design of it, because we have to do it together.
Yeah. And I think that's what I love about collaboration is at least I take my superpower and then I combine it with your superpower.
Yeah, it's like we got Batman and we got Superman and we got Hulk, and they're all working together to beat the bad guy. And they all have their own part to play. And you can't play. It's like, could you really see Superman being Hulk? I mean, how ridiculous. That would be so ridiculous. Superman would die.
Superman couldn't be green.
He could be green, but he wouldn't be as cute.
Okay, gave you that.
Yeah.
Am I cuter than Superman?
Okay. And we're moving on.
And we're moving on. Notice she didn't answer that. Okay, so
yes, you're cuter than Superman.
Okay, so know your superpower, know your kryptonite, and learning to live in the tension, and realize that collaboration has tension.
Yeah,
and being okay with it. Right.
It's not easy following somebody else and what they think is right when I know that I'm right and I'm just as competent.
Yeah.
But you can't have two rights, and somebody's right has got to be, sometimes you've got to choose one right over the other just because you have to make a choice. And then with that, it's like, it's okay if it doesn't work. It's okay if you're wrong. It's okay if, Dennis and I are working on something, we're collaborating together, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to choose his right. And him knowing, well, gosh, we'll choose my right, but I might be wrong, and I'm okay with that. And that's okay. And along that line, it's recognizing, and this is really, really important. If you have stronger personalities on your team, the stronger personality is going to push harder.
Yeah.
And so and by stronger personalities, I mean, like, say we're referring to DISC, for instance.
Right, you're a high, dominant, direct style.
Yeah, or you could also be like a high I, which is a very gregarious, very people-oriented person. And they're much more extroverted. Let's put it this way. The more extroverted, stronger the personality, the harder they'll push for their idea. And they more introverted, sometimes more precise or more warm and welcoming the person is, they'll tend to be weaker in that. And what you have to do is you have to understand, when we are working together, collaborating as a team, we have to kind of balance out those strengths of personalities, because the ideas of the maybe more introverted people are just as valid.
Yeah.
And if we always go with the stronger ones, and if the stronger ones always push, then we're going to have problems. So when we're working together, say in our team, and we're having an idea exchange, it's very important, as me as the leader, we have certain team members that are going to be vocal, they're going to speak out. And I know the team members that are less likely to speak out, less likely to give their opinion. And I'm always aware and listening. Okay, have they spoken up? And I'm also very aware of, are their ideas? I'm watching their body language, and I'm reading them, and I'm knowing. And I do this even in our masterminds when we have different C-suite CEOs and entrepreneurs that have these companies. I'm watching to see, do they have something to say, but maybe the really stronger person is speaking up too freely, and being quick in our team meeting or even in our masterminds to say, hey, John, do you have something to say? What's your opinion, or what do you think? And giving space and requiring these stronger personalities to back down so we can hear from everyone as a team.
Well, there's that tension in that, right? In giving space, there needs to be that tension. And I think as leaders, especially leading teams, you have to be very aware that, your ideas or suggestions become other people's commands.
Yeah.
And just being super aware of allowing other people the space. And sometimes they don't say it as fast.
Yes.
Right?
I don't say things as fast, and I use too many words.
And just allowing that tension to go, and almost allowing the tension of, hey, it's okay not to have an answer really quick. Like, hey, take 30 seconds right now, think through, and that's okay.
And along that line, when we're presenting something, we'll say, okay, I need us to think about this. You don't have to come up with an answer right now, but I'm going to come around and we'll ask everyone. Yeah. And you give those people that maybe are not quite as gregarious or direct or just spout off the top of their head, you give them a chance to think about it, because what's quite interesting is those are the people that are going to have a more thought out, more accurate solution than the people that just spout off.
Well, and here's what's interesting. So what I love about doing this workshop is, I don't want to say all the time, but many times frequently, I'll have to shut the senior leader down, right? We're facilitating this workshop and working through solutions and coming up with strategies for the quarter and these kind of things. And I'll tell these leaders, hey, just be quiet. Stop right now.
Yeah.
Right. Because they have the idea and they want to say it really quick and they want to get out. And I say, just.
And their idea is the right idea.
According to them. Right. But
Yeah.
so many times it just shuts other people down because a lot of times the senior leader will talk and other people go, okay, well, if that's what you want.
Yeah.
And so you just want to be super careful. And I think that's why having a facilitator doing some of these workshops is super valuable.
Which is your superpower, which I really appreciate, that you facilitate so well. And it's having an outside voice or having a neutral party just to come in and kind of help and allow everyone space. And it kind of neutralizes the playing zone. So we're all coming in here.
Yeah. And it's fascinating with the ideas that come forth. I just love it. And it's probably one of the most favorite things I can do. So we'll put some information. You can reach out to us about a workshop on collaboration. But Lisa, two of the things that I really want to cover that's also we work through with teams is this idea of the handoff.
Yeah.
And maybe the best way to look at collaboration is it's like a relay race.
Yeah.
Right. And you're doing it with multiple people.
And you have to. That's part of the rules of a relay race is it's 4 people or 6 or 8 people, and you get to run for this long, and you have to hand it off. I'm thinking of like our Ville de Ville. I mean, there's segments.
Just describe Ville de Ville because you just threw it out there, and people from
this is something locally that we have, and it's a relay race, and you're running from one city to another,
Asheville, North Carolina to Greenville, South
through the mountains, and it's difficult terrain, and you're required to run. You've got 4 runners, and you've got 8 segments, and each segment is a different length, and you have to complete your segment, and then you can pass it off. And there's just some very tight rules, and it will destroy you by the time you're done. But what's really important is that is the rule of the game. Is it is a relay, and it requires everyone.
Okay, and it's this whole idea of like passing a baton. And Lisa, we learned this from Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach, was super helpful, is this idea of the 80% rule. Is that when there's a project, whoever starts the project quickly tries to get to their part to 80%. Just take it to 80% and then pass it off. Right? Don't try to do it all, just 80%. And then like, I'm going to get the idea and I'm going to pass it off to you for discernment.
Right.
As quick as possible. You take my 80% and give it to you. And then you take your discernment and you do quickly as possible 80%. And then maybe you give it to another team member. Right, who can use their superpower. And what happens is it keeps us out of procrastination.
Well, and what I love about this, and you can't see it, but visualize a box. Because when you teach this, you do a box.
Yeah.
And so you think about a box and basically cut 80% of that box off, right?
Yeah.
And you're left with this skinny rectangle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then the next person, they've got this skinny rectangle and they're going to do 80%. So you cut 80% off of that skinny rectangle.
Yeah.
And you're left basically with this small box.
Yep.
And then you pass it on to another person, and then that next person does their 80%, and they take this small box and you cut 80% of it off, and you're left with this tiny sliver of a rectangle. And by the time you get through and keep passing it off, you have this teeny weeny bit of imperfection left.
And it's good to go.
And it's good to go. It's good enough.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I love that visualization of a project and versus perfection. And sometimes we get stilted or we get held back because we don't know, especially that's something I do or even you do, depending on your personality type. It's like, I'm not quite sure what it should look like. It's okay. I just need to do my part.
And so the key with this, is really defining the success criteria, right? This is a success criteria for the project. Everybody knows the success criteria. And then we just start playing the 80% rule.
Yeah.
And things go back and forth really quick. And what happens is it keeps us out of procrastination, right? And it keeps us out of perfectionism.
Right. And absolutely. And when you do something and you hand it off to me, I'm going to fix what you did.
Yeah. And being okay with that.
And knowing when you hand it off to me that I'm going to slash some of your stuff and I'm be like, I disagree with this. The thing is it's my word is not the final word. It gets passed off to somebody else and they're going to slash what I did. And they might revert some things back to what he did. But by the time it goes through enough eyes and enough hands that have the capability in that area,
it becomes a great product.
Yeah, it'll be great. But it's when we try to circumvent that process and shorten it because we don't have time or maybe someone's not available, then that's when we that's when we put out stuff that just misses the mark and we waste time and money.
Yeah. So great collaborators do like really quick handoffs. And then the last thing really to kind of think about as collaboration is focus on the end goal. And this is the end game. What's the end game? And at the end of the day, it's all about your customers and it's all about your clients.
Yeah.
Right? Is how can we serve them better? How can we add more value to them? And when we are all focused on, hey, this adds the most value to the customers. Lisa, and I love it when team members even have that conversation with me, because at times there's things I procrastinate about. And I had a team member yesterday say, well, that doesn't really serve the customer. Right? The customer is going to be frustrated if you don't have your eyes on it before it goes out. And I procrastinate for like 3 or 4 days because I'm busy with 10 other projects and I don't look at it. And it's almost like once she said that,
it's like, oh, shoot.
Yeah, the light bulb went off and I thought, man, that's not what I want. Right? But I got lost in what the end game was.
Yeah.
So really, the question really becomes like, what's best for your customer? What's best for your client? And always asking that question. Because here's the thing. A lot of times, like as we're building processes, I always go, is this hard? Is this hard for the customer? Are we making this like clunky for the customer? Like, is it really hard to do business with us?
Yeah.
Because part of our goal, and we really teach this to our team, is we want to be the easiest trading company you've ever worked with. That's one of our goals, right? And if we ever hear that, hey, it's not quite as easy, the question is, okay, how do we make it easier? How do we make it smoother?
Yeah.
So, this whole idea of collaboration. Now listen, if you have not signed up for the Results-Focused Team Challenge, we're going to put a link, but it's 5 strategies, 5 tools for the next 5 days that you're going to get.
Super short. They're quick little videos, quick little
tools.
Yeah. It takes maybe 2 minutes at the most, 30 seconds, but they're just different ideas on how your team can create better results.
Yeah, so it's there. It's as a resource,
and it's free. There's no charge for it. You just do it and be better.
Yep, and you
and serve your clients and your customers well.
Yeah, because we want you to really have a results-focused team, because it really makes leadership simpler and easier.
And it makes your clients so much happier.
It really does. So, Lisa, I'm thinking about my takeaway is I think learning to stay in the tension better. I was just kind of hit me that, okay, I need to learn to just pull back and allow the tension, because what I discovered is that sometimes I never really wanted to solve the problem. I just wanted the tension to go away.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the truth. As ugly as that sounds, right? It's like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm uncovering myself a little bit, but it really is true. And so I have to realize that, okay, I'm going to need some of the tension, right? And allow the tension so that the problem really surfaces itself, right? But it needs that tension and needs that time to kind of bubble up, and allowing for it. And it's okay. What about you? What was a key takeaway?
I always love the superpower kryptonite conversation.
Yeah.
Because what that does is that now, okay, superheroes, okay, they're not human, okay? But we are human, and we all have superpowers, and we have kryptonite. And what that says is every single person on our team is human. I'm human, you're human. That means I've got things I'm going to do incredibly well, and I've got things that I'm really not going to do well. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with knowing that there is some stuff I will just not do very well, and being able to be honest and vulnerable with someone else and say, listen, I don't think I can do this. I'm going to need your help. And either I need to hand it off to you and have you do it, or I need you to come alongside me and we do it together. And so I always love that superpower kryptonite conversation.
And it's really about being human.
It's about being human and being okay with being human and knowing that we need each other.
We certainly do. And collaboration, it requires a team, and it requires other people.
And it's we call it the power of we, because alone we are destined to fail. But when we're together and we're bonded together and we're in a goal together, we can do it. And we are so powerful.
I love it. Yep. So listen, reach out to us if you'd like a workshop, and we can have that conversation. But our work is done. So we'll see you next time on the Drama Free Living Podcast.